everyone. How's it going? Welcome back to the podcast. Hope you're all doing great out there. And today we have a real treat for you. We have, if you're like me, and I think you are, a lot of you are, 9 out of 10 people out there, I think, love Vietnamese food. But if you ask them what they like about it, they may be able to name 3 things. They might name pho, maybe a banh mi, maybe a spring roll. But for a lot of us, that's how deep our knowledge goes. But today, I think we're going to go a little deeper. We're going to talk a little bit more about the diversity and the uniqueness of Vietnamese cuisine. And so hopefully we'll teach you a little something today. And so to help us with this, we brought on a couple people. But first of all, I want to introduce a special co-host for the day. You know her from shows like America's Test Kitchen, Cooks Country, and Technically on YouTube, one of my new favorite channels. And of course, she was on the Infatuasian podcast with us a couple months ago. It is our old pal, senior editor at Cooks Illustrator and test cook, Lan Lam. Hey, Lan, welcome back.
Hey, Curtis, how's it going?
It's going good. You hustled over from the studio. You had a shoot this morning?
Yeah, it was actually a location shoot, and it's kind of overcast and rainy in Boston, but that kept the crew going, and now I'm here.
All right. Thank you so much for joining. You did, at the end of our recording, you did say, hey, let me know if I can help with anything. And so I thought of you when this topic came up. I was like, we should bring Lan back on.
You know, when I got your email and saw Andrea's name, I was like, you guys, I got a thing I got to do, so we need to wrap this shoot.
Man, we appreciate you being here, and you're going to help out with some questions and insights, of course, with your knowledge. But let's welcome to the show our expert for the day. She is author, teacher, consultant, and podcaster, Andrea Nguyen. Hey, Andrea, how are you?
Good, Curtis. Hey, Lan, how are you?
Hi, Andrea.
How are you both?
We're doing great. And where are you calling in from today, Andrea? Your Bay Area?
I'm in the Bay Area. I'm in Santa Cruz in the Monterey Bay.
Oh, okay. How's the weather down there? We got a little clouds over where we are.
You know what? It's always cloudy. We got sun today. I was so happy. I went out for a walk and I was nearly late. But I, am very much sympathetic to all the folks in the Northeast with the air challenges because, we had them here a couple of years ago in 2020.
Yeah.
So with the wildfire, especially in Santa Cruz. That overcast sky that Lan just talked about, I know it.
Yeah.
That Armageddon feeling.
Yeah. It's a little orange out, and that's disconcerting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen pictures from New York City, and it reminded me of that day in 2020 when the skies were orange and we were all home hunkered down, and it just looked like is this how it's going to end? Is this the end of us? But
yeah, this is it. But you know what? It also reminded me of being in Southeast Asia during certain times of the year. In September, number of years ago, I was in Hanoi and I flew in and I thought, oh my God, they're like, they're having like a barbecue festival or something. Because the entire city smelled smoky. It turns out it was like burn season after the harvest. So everyone was burning rice straw. And we had the most beautiful sunsets, these like
bright orange,
orange, red suns. Yeah. And I'd never seen anything the likes of that. And nope. It was just a lot of air pollution, and I got laryngitis because I stupidly did not wear a mask. But we all are friendly with masks now in 2023.
Hey, Lan, how did you meet Andrea? Where did you meet Andrea?
Well, I've been checking out Andrea's blog for years and years, but we didn't meet in person until maybe 5 years ago. I had a colleague at America's Test Kitchen. He was a fellow test cook named Andrew, and he and Andrea are friendly, and he brought her in one day, and we sat around at our desks, and I want to say we tasted Maggi sauce because Andrew had like the variations of the sauce from like 5 different countries. It was super fun.
It was. He hid them in his house and in his desk or something like that. He pulled them out, and we all were like testing them because Andrew and I are glutamate friends, and we're into MSG, and that was so fun.
Yeah, Andrew is a little bit of a pack rat, and you never quite know what he's going to pull out of his fridge and how long it's been there, but it usually tastes pretty good.
Well, I was introduced to Andrea several years back. I have a friend named Nai, and she came over to our house, and I think for like a potluck, and she brought some lemongrass beef skewers, some grilled beef skewers. And my wife and I are like, these are amazing. Can we get the recipe for these? And she did one better. She, I think that either my birthday or Christmas, she dropped a copy of...
Oh, my firstborn!
Everyone's favorite cookbook, Vietnamese cookbook, is called Into the Vietnamese Kitchen, written by our guest today. And it's your firstborn, baby. It's on my shelf now.
Yes. No, the firstborn is always extra special.
Yeah, no, it is fantastic. It is fantastic. And like I said, for those of us who kind of love Vietnamese flavors, but don't get out of the pho, banh mi realm very often, this book really is a great intro, but also a deep dive into some things. And we'll talk about it a little more in a second. And so, yeah, thanks for bringing your kitchen into our kitchen, Andrea, as well as 7 other babies. We'll talk about the other book babies that you have as well. Is it okay if we talk about your roots a little bit? I noticed one thing about this book that is so great is that it is a little bit of family history, a little bit of history, and definitely culinary history. Can we talk about your roots a little bit? Yeah, born in Vietnam.
Yes, I was born in Vietnam and was there until I was 6 years old in 1975. And my family was very fortunate to be able to have been able to escape, to fly out of Saigon about a week before the fall of Saigon in April of 1975.
Like literally a week.
Literally a week. I mean, we were very lucky. Yeah. My dad found a connection to help us get out. And there are a lot of families that weren't so lucky, And when we came here, we ended up in Southern California in a little beach town called San Clemente, which is very close to Camp Pendleton, one of the resettlement camps. Camp Pendleton was a Marine, and still is a Marine base. And we, my dad was like, if this town is good for an American president, and Richard Nixon was living there at the time, he goes, if it's good enough for an American president, it's good enough for me. So we ended up living there, and my parents thought there were going to be other Vietnamese people who would resettle there, but they didn't. They went elsewhere in the country. They went about 45 minutes north of San Clemente to resettle in what would become the granddaddy of Little Saigons in America, in the Westminster area. And so, my mom still lives there. My dad died in San Clemente. I still live in California after all these years. And I always think that, I'm 1.5 generation.
Right.
I'm have one foot in the old country, but more here. And that gives me a certain limited perspective. I would say a hybrid perspective on cuisine and culture. Wouldn't necessarily call it third culture, what, youngins are referring to nowadays.
Yeah.
I feel like you know so much more than you're giving yourself credit for. I learned so much. I feel like every time we chat, I get more little nuggets about Viet culture that, sometimes I think, why don't I know that? I should know that.
Well, thank you. I feel but in our professions, regardless of what we do, you guys, we never feel like we know enough.
Sure. Yeah.
Fair.
And I think that's actually makes that aspect of lifelong learning is what makes my job and my work so satisfying.
Yeah. You can tell when you read it. Like every recipe has a little yellow section above it with a little story or a little history, and it's fantastic.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I have to confess, I cooked from your first book just last week. I'm diving into a new recipe. It's only the second Viet recipe I've ever gotten to do for cooks, but it's mi sao yong.
Oh, God.
Right?
So good.
It's so good. Yeah. And people loved your recipe. Loved it.
Thank you. Thank you. I think about recipe development and over time for someone like me who's been doing it for a while, like the first book, our first attempt at doing something, we try to stay as close as possible to tradition, but also understand that, we're cooking in America with different ingredients. So to stay true, right? To where we are. And then over time, you feel a little bit more confident to like play with things, cause like I look at, but I know like those recipes into the Vietnamese Kitchen are like so damn effing good. They're like rock solid, cause I like sweated on that book so much. And it's because it was my first book.
Yeah.
And so whenever I go back to cook from those recipes, I'm the same. I'm like, oh my God, you really covered your ass.
Yeah.
It tastes really good.
It doesn't read like a first cookbook. There are, it's polished. The recipe writing is very polished in a way that I don't often see when people are newer to recipe writing. Certainly that's the case, with a lot of bloggers where I think it's just a matter of experience. And, as more and more people use your work and give feedback, you learn how to write and what to anticipate. And all of that was present in your first book.
Yeah, well, thank you. I had one of the best editors around, Aaron Weiner, and copy editors too. But I did certain things like that I don't know if people do these days with their writing when they're making a book. I read things aloud. And you say to yourself, does that sound good? What is the cadence like? And I was never, growing up, English and writing were really such a struggle for me because it's not my native language. I didn't grow up in a home that knew about idioms and stuff like that. And so I really struggled with figuring out, how should I sound? What is my voice? And do I want to sound academic? And I was like, no, but I want to sound sort of serious, but I know that I want to be someone's coach in the kitchen. I know I do not want to be my mother in your kitchen.
And did you do that reading aloud for both the head notes and the introductions and
yes,
and the recipe writing itself, like the directions?
Yes, sometimes the directions too. I had a lot of energy back then, and I would and I would read those things aloud, partly for cadence, and then also for proofreading purposes. And that was a long book because it was like 100 or 175 recipes. I think they're way over. It's like 350 pages, and it's not like super photographed. And so it's a lot of words. Yeah.
Let's take it back to your mom for a second. We got to talk about this orange notebook, which I think is a fantastic story, but I don't think it's totally unique either. I think a lot of folks, when you were told you had to leave a city, or your dad told your mom we're leaving tomorrow, and she grabbed a change of clothes for each of you. You have 4 siblings, so 5 kids, a change of clothes, some of her jewelry, and this orange notebook. You want to tell us what's in that orange notebook?
Yeah, the orange notebook is when you look at it, you go, it's just like this flimsy little orange notebook, but it contained her recipes that she had written down over the years. And it's like her book of domesticity is what it translates into Vietnamese. And she wrote down recipes that she thought were keepers, or she would find them in Saigon newspapers, and she would make my sisters copy them down to quote unquote practice their penmanship. And so there's a mixture of her handwriting, my sister's handwriting, and it filled half of the notebook, which was about, it's a total of 100 pages around. And so like 50 of the pages were in Vietnam, and then the remainder are filled now with recipes that were collected in America of things of like Vietnamese dishes that she made here, like, how she tweaked her bánh chưng, which is like trồng dưa. They're eaten. We eat them during Tet, and they are wrapped as squares in banana leaf and bamboo leaf. And then there's like fried wontons with my father's handwriting, and his penmanship is absolutely gorgeous. He never cooked in Vietnam really for our family, but coming here, he did more, or he participated because he had more time. And then there are like recipes for brownies and like pineapple upside down cake, which to us was like so exotic.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we thought, oh, this is America. We're going to add this to like mom's book of domesticity.
Do you have a favorite fusion dish? Like, I think Lan was talking about her grandma's fried rice, but do you have anything with Spam or something that you can only find here, but your mom mixed it with what she was comfortable with?
Well, I mean, she's an odd purist. So like we would make chili beans from those chili like packages that were sold back in the day.
The Lowry's.
Yes, it would, and so we would make chili and then like serve it over spaghetti. Actually, it was just like whatever, you know. But we would serve that up, and she'd be like, "I need my rice."
Yeah.
And we're like, "We got the carbs," you know. We didn't even know anything about low carb in it back in the 70s. But she was like, "I need my rice every day."
Andrea, can I ask, did your family do a fusion Thanksgiving? I remember a lot of like kind of my mom thinking, oh, this is an American holiday we should celebrate. And she would buy the turkey and she'd buy the box of stovetop. But, you know, rather than like a mirepoix, I'd find like shiitakes and carrots and scallions in the stovetop. And then instead of a traditional turkey, there'd be like this soy sauce, oyster sauce marinade. And it was always like, it was good. It was just different. And
yeah. No, my mom had a fair amount of knowledge about French cooking. And so she looked at the turkey. She's like, oh, dindon. I'm going to roast, a turkey like French style. And so, but then she would make sticky rice stuffing and then she would make like chestnuts that my dad with roast and peel. But she would, instead of parsley, she would use cilantro with the butter, and she would put cognac into her sticky rice stuffing. And she loves sweet potatoes. So like one of us would have to make like sickly sweet potatoes for her, like not with marshmallow. She doesn't like marshmallow. She doesn't like things that are like super soft. She doesn't like mashed potatoes. She wants texture.
Okay.
And she doesn't like pie. She likes tarts. But she doesn't like, she's got
That's
like
very French.
Right? It is. She's like apple pie. No, French tart. Yes.
Interesting. I mean, let's dive into that for a second. Like Vietnam is an interesting place that you talk about a little bit in the beginning of your book, and the fact that it was such prime real estate that everyone wanted a piece of it. And so you have the Chinese trying to get in there, and then of course the Europeans getting in there. How has all that shaped Vietnamese cuisine as you know it?
Take a look at banh mi, man. You've got the French bread in there, but then it's somehow made kind of crunchy, because I think my theory is that the Vietnamese were baking in humidity. And so they needed to manipulate that dough somehow to make it rise. And sometimes they added some rice flour to make it super crunchy. But then, you've got the butter, you've got the Maggi seasoning sauce in there, which was a French ingredient that was introduced. Tastes just like soy sauce, but it's not. It tastes really good. It's part of the banh mi flavor. And then butter was so expensive, but people had eggs and oil and a little acid, so they made mayonnaise. And you got the pate, but the pate has Chinese 5-spice, because who has 4-spice? The quatre épices from France. And so I mean, people were doing all this stuff, and that's like, who has time? Who has those fancy French sausages and the saucisson and the jambon, the ham. We're going to put Vietnamese cold cuts in there. And then we're going to cook pickles and herbs and all that stuff. And together it becomes the Vietnamese banh mi that we know today. Of course, there are many renditions. Some were very simple. Just bread and even salt and pepper was what my parents remembered from the 1930s, because it was such a treat. And the bread was always sold in a rattan basket covered with and lined with burlap, because it was so fresh. And you wanted to retain its crunch.
That crispy, yeah.
Yeah, you still see it today. Hopefully, I haven't been back to Vietnam in a while, but the banh mi deliveries happen several times a day to banh mi vendors. And I recall seeing them on these motor scooters in these tall baskets wicker rattan baskets, and they're lined with burlap. It still happens.
It's great.
So I hope it still does.
And I heard you mention, and I never thought about this before, how when the French came and they kind of introduced the Vietnamese kitchen to beef, but it wasn't the primal cuts. You weren't eating the prime rib or the steaks, but the French would leave behind the carcasses, and then the Vietnamese cook said, "Hey, we'll make broth out of this. We'll make stew," and that kind of led to a whole the use of beef in Vietnam is kind of based more on the carcasses than the steaks.
Yeah, it's like, no waste cooking, man. They're like, they used all of the prime filet and whatever that you could get off of the poor cows. And I mean, you go to Southeast Asia, they're not like Wagyu beef, kind of thing. They're not massaged.
These are work animals.
They're work animals.
Yeah.
The cows are and water buffalo are draft animals. And the French started, harvesting the cows for their beefsteak and left the Vietnamese with these very tough cuts and the bones. And there was a sale all of a sudden, right?
Uh-huh.
With beef parts. And the story goes that the noodle soup vendors in Hanoi around the turn of the 20th century, you guys, so 120 years ago, saw an opportunity to retool a noodle soup that they were making with rice noodles and water buffalo. And all of a sudden they had beef. And then they were like, oh, we're going to do things a little different. And maybe we'll add some spices. And then that over time evolved into what we know today as pho. So when people say, oh, the French influenced Vietnamese food so much, I'm just like, they brought stuff in. We appropriated it and made it something of our own. It's the kind of cultural survival and appropriation that I'm wholeheartedly supportive of.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, you can get a little more of this in Andrea's books, and it's fascinating. I read it like a novel. I don't even know how many recipes I've used, but I read your book like a novel, and it's amazing. It's really great.
Thank you. You're not the first to say that, and I'm very honored because not all of us are going to cook thoroughly. We're going to, we're going to, people sometimes just want to look at pictures, but I hope that they read and hope they cook and somehow they get hooked on the cuisine and the culture.
Yeah. What are some of the distinctives that you would say are unique isn't the right word, but what are some of the things that makes Vietnamese cooking so distinctive?
People love to come up to me and they go, I love Vietnamese food. And Lan's probably heard this before too. It's so fresh. It's not Chinese food. It's not Thai food. It's not Japanese food. And I go, yes, it is not. It is not those cuisines. It is the distinctive cuisine of Vietnam, right? And when I describe it vis-a-vis Thailand, which is right next door, I say that Thai food is full of lust and peaks and valleys. It's like the flavors are right there, and they go up and down, and they take you on this wild ride. Whereas Vietnamese food is more undulating hills. It's just soft hills. And so we like heat, but not too much. We like spice, but not a ton. We eat a lot of raw vegetables and herbs, and those ingredients play these pivotal roles in what is an extremely agrarian cuisine. It's very green that way. There's not that much meat, and I think that it's not to say that distinguishes it, but it's certainly the level of raw produce that is seen on the Vietnamese table on a daily basis is very different than what you would see featured on other Southeast Asian and Asian tables. So Chinese cuisine, rarely do you see raw vegetables served raw.
True. Yeah.
Maybe as a pickle. Yeah. But I think the Vietnamese saw eating these herbs almost the only other cuisine that I can like I can compare it to is like Persian cuisine, where you're like, you're like just massive amounts of herbs with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, handfuls practically.
Yeah.
And you're bearing every single mouthful. And the other thing, but approach wise, I think that Vietnamese food is highly customizable and personalizable. That's why there are there are rules and parameters, and I try to set guardrails for people so that they understand what what pho is. But then that's just why I wrote the pho cookbook. But then like you can make pho cocktails if you understand like some of the ideas behind pho and the elements and the flavors. You can make a pho dumpling if you want to, and if you don't want to do those things, like they're too scary for you, you can make pho using an Instant Pot. And versus like a long simmer, so that it's totally doable in a modern context. So there's a lot of flexibility in Vietnamese food, which I think is a positive thing because everyone's invited to the party, but it can also be a negative in the sense that it changes so often. We love our fish sauce, but even when you compare fish sauce between countries that use it a lot, Thailand and the Philippines, for example, the Thai fish sauce is it lacks a certain sweet lilt that Vietnamese fish sauce does, and it's a little gutsier. And Filipino patis tends to have a little bit more of a flat flavor profile.
I find it like kind of aggressively salty in comparison to some of the Southeast Asian ones. Like it's just more intense. It's like someone took the salt dial and just turned it up and turned the other ones down just a tiny bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. So whenever people come to me and they're like, what do you recommend for fish sauce? And I suggest, you don't have to make a lot of Vietnamese food, but I think like a Vietnamese style fish sauce is going to like be the middle path to like being able to have very flexible, a condiment that's very flexible to use in the kitchen.
It's funny. I find that pragmatic approach to cooking really fascinating because, I work in a variety of cuisines, and when you approach certain cultures, there is one way, and that's the way. And you can't deviate because then it's not that dish anymore. And I find that when I talk to Vietnamese cooks, like there's an acknowledgement that there are multiple ways to do the thing. Of course, they think their way is right and it's the best way, but there's no
best way.
It's totally fine that other people do it differently.
Yeah, it's highly personal cuisine and cooking. And so I feel like, after writing 6 books and that I was ready to just kind of be super creative with the cuisine in my new book, Evergreen Vietnamese, because there are all of these cool hacks in there. I make fake meat in a way that most Vietnamese cooks don't. I make like a vegan fish sauce, and everything stars plants because plants play such a pivotal role. And I, do things like we have all of these special salads, these gỏi and no in the Vietnamese repertoire and the icon, and they're always like super meaty and they're always so damn complicated to make. And I was like, I just want to eat these salads on like a daily basis. I don't want to like save it for like family get-togethers and meetups. And so I started like pulling back some of the ingredients, the proteins or swapping it for mushroom or something, and just pulling things back and letting the vegetables star more. And they were just like fabulous and doable. And I thought, you know what, if we can rethink the cuisine in this manner, then I feel like the cuisine becomes much more doable to people, especially as like we're trying to figure out how to eat more healthily and sustainably for the planet, and as well as for our long-term health and longevity.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. We'll skip over the other books. We'll get back to the other books later, I think. But let's talk about book baby number 7, the Evergreen Vietnamese. Came out in April 2023, and it is a shift towards plant-based Vietnamese cooking. Now, you say yourself you're not becoming a vegan or anything like that, but you're shifting. What kind of brought about this shift in your mind?
I turned 50, and I had some health issues that made me realize, like, oh my goodness, I've been going through perimenopause, and how can I really calm myself down and eat healthier and sustain that for the long haul. And I think a lot of times when we're talking about midlife issues, they seem life-threatening because there's a point where you're going through these changes and you're like, oh my God, there are very odd things happening to my body. This is unnatural. Am I going to die? I'm just going to put it out there, because whether women, you know what, it's happening. And men, you go through it too. You know, my husband calls it menopause. And and he's white. Okay. And the thing is that, like, it's stuff that people my mother's generation and her age, and she said to me, we didn't have the luxury of knowing what this was in Vietnam. We didn't have a term for menopause. It's like a Western construct. And she said to me, just keep yourself busy and it'll go away. And I was like, no, I don't think so.
That is such it's a generational thing. I think a lot of Vietnamese women of that generation and older ones, it just assume, there's just this mentality that if you push through and keep going, eventually it'll pass and everything will be fine. You just got to tough it out. And it's really, I don't know, I find it very heartening that we're just talking about this more. We should share our knowledge. It makes the whole process a little bit less intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
It does. And I think that with cookbook writing, everything always has to be so darn cheerful. But I mean, I have a cheerful experience because I doubled down on my vegetables. I was like looking around for different dietary options, right? But I'm just like, I'm not a virtuous eater, man. I'm always like trying to break the rules. I'm not going to be paleo. And then I was like looking at the Mediterranean diet that I was like, oh, and Mediterranean diet. And I thought, but I'm not Mediterranean. There's only so much olive oil I can eat and cook with.
Yeah.
Right. And even so, like the Mediterranean diet, sometimes the proponents of that diet say, oh, you can have a little tofu too. And I'm like, wait a second here. Tofu belongs to Asian people. Tofu's, started a good 2,000 years ago in China. Let's not let it get sucked up into the Mediterranean diet. And so I was like thinking, as we all need to figure out ways to eat healthily. And nowadays we cook and we enjoy multicultural experiences. It's intersectionality in the kitchen, kind of like. And so I was like, what can Vietnamese food contribute to that? And so I started retooling a lot of my recipes to figure out what I can provide for someone myself who's like interested in vegetables and eating a lot less meat. I lost 15 pounds. I felt better. And I go back to my mother and I say, oh, Mom, I'm like feeling so much better. And I'm less stressed. And she looked at me, she said, oh, I'm so happy for you. And she used this word in Vietnamese, thin, which said, oh, and she says, gong, gong thin lai, which is like, child, you like refreshed yourself, you reawakened. And she said, I'm so happy for you. And I said, I think that I, like figure out this new diet thing with like a lot less vegetables. And my mom said, oh, we ate that way in Vietnam before we came over here.
Yeah.
Which is something that she never told me until like I struck up that conversation with her. So it's this thing of like immigrants, refugees coming to this country. There's a lot of cheap meat. We changed our diet.
Yeah.
And as a result, and also the mental and stresses of just living in the 21st century, it's like we need to kind of think about our culinary roots. And so Evergreen Vietnamese is about plant-based in like a Vietnamese manner, which is a lot of plants and a little bit of meat. And I think that, that's kind of, I'm trying to make that my contribution to the discussion. And it's the kind of food that I can keep eating and not get tired of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it can be part of a lot of people's repertoires.
Yeah.
And it's full of these really cool, enduring, evergreen ideas that have come from the Vietnamese kitchen. So, I did things like typically in a cookbook, the rice chapter comes towards the end because rice is like a side dish. And then my editor is like, you know what? You have been talking about the importance of rice since your first cookbook.
Uh-huh.
Why don't you consider moving the rice chapter up to the top, right after the pantry section?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, all right, let's do it. It's so bold, right? And so we did, because I was like, go rice,
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
so there, this is a book that is probably my most creative book to date. It's very joyful, and I'm really happy a lot of people are getting into it.
Can I ask a question about rice? I've been working on some rice recipes in the last year, and the thing that's come up a lot is how healthy different types of rice are, brown versus white. What's your take on like there's prestige is the wrong word, but there's white rice is
status.
Yeah, there's status to being able to afford it, even though these days it's kind of the other way around. It feels like brown rice is the status rice these days. It's more virtuous. Yeah. But where do you stand? Do you have a preference?
I love a particular brown jasmine rice brand, Three Ladies. I love how it's aromatic. It cooks up to a chew. And it is super healthy. It costs more than the polished Three Ladies. And it's a generational thing with the brown rice too, because I remember trying to get my parents to eat more whole grains, and my mom was digging it. She was like, oh yeah, brown rice. Got it. My dad's like, no way. No, because people of their generation, okay, my dad was born in 1930. My mom was born in 1934. He recently passed at the age of like 91. And so they know about how rice is grown and processed and what it tastes like from, stalk to table. And so the ability to have polished rice is so important to them. And it is very much like a status thing, even though nowadays people are like, eat too much white rice, then, it's going to cause diabetes, which is like an issue within the Asian American community.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all those white rice products, in rice paper, boon rice noodles, bun phao, for phao noodle soup. It's all like polished rice. But I really love my brown rice to eat every day. And that's our go-to rice. But you know what? It has its limits though, right, Lan? Because you only do certain things with brown rice. You can't. White rice is like eternally manipulable.
Yeah, I have to say I go the other way, and maybe I need to try this brand is what I'm hearing. But I love that. I love the texture of white rice, of like just the look, the way it feels when you like dig into it with your chopsticks, like the cling that brown rice just doesn't have, or at least not any of the brown rice I've tried. I got to try your stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I went through, we were trying to eat healthier. And then for years, I was like trying all these different kinds of brown rice. I would go to my health food store. I would buy like really expensive brown rice grown domestically. And then one day I tried Three Ladies. And it's really like there's something about the strain that they're growing in Southeast Asia of jasmine rice. And it cooks up beautifully. It's not too sticky. It's got a little stick to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it cooks up maybe just like it takes maybe like 10 minutes longer than white rice. So it doesn't take too long. Yeah.
All right.
And so it's really, I try it.
I'm sold.
Yeah.
I'm sold.
So Andrea, let's say we invite you over to the house, and Lon and I are there. We'll sous chef for you. But if you were gonna cook for a party of omnivores, let's say there's a couple meat eaters, a couple pescatarians, and a couple vegetarians. What sorts of things would you make to kind of keep everyone happy and maybe hit all the spots for the people out? Some out of your new cookbook and maybe some from your old cookbooks. What kind of feats would you make?
I'm kind of a lazy cook.
Don't worry about it. I'll sous chef for you. I got it.
Yeah.
All right. So what I would do is I would have set up for people to make bánh quai, which are these Hue rice crepes that are in, I have a recipe in Evergreen Vietnamese that I retooled. And there's a recipe in my first book as well. And they're like the equivalent of a fried crunchy rice taco, and you can fill them with anything. They're much easier to make than sizzling rice crepes, which require a little bit more finessing. But these guys, man, you can fill them with vegetarian or surf and turf combination,
Smart, yeah.
you know, with lots of herbs and lettuce and a like garlicky, spicy hoisin dipping sauce. And so that would be like the main dish. And I would make, and you can like prep all of that out like a couple of days in advance, and you can soak rice to make a beautiful batter. You can use rice flour from the Asian market. You can even finesse like rice flour that you buy from a regular supermarket too. And I would set out a bunch of liquor. I would demo how to make one of these and then let people add it. But before that, I would have some snacks.
Of course.
Everyone loves snacks. And so, you know, because Curtis, you're into those beef grilled skewer, lemongrass beef skewers, I would make those because those are beautiful dipped in the hoisin dipping sauce. So right now I've got one sauce. I'm making two uses, right? I could even like grill off that beef and then put it in a rice paper roll.
Yeah.
So that I can have other things that I put in rice paper rolls and dip it in that sauce. All of a sudden now I am making a vat of that sauce. And that sauce can be made, you know, vegetarian, vegan, or with a little chicken broth. And then have a bunch of sweets, like the best fruit. I mean, you know, we're kind of have a feast. We can then like stir fry some noodles, maybe make those noodles that Lan was talking about. If people want to be gluten-free, we can pan fry wide rice noodles. There are my favorite recipes for that, where the rice gets really crunchy, is in the Pho cookbook. And then we, you know, have a bunch of sweets. Sometimes I like double down on the snacks. I love snacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
All appetizers all the time, man.
I know. And so like I love to make like, there's this mushroom, 5-spice mushroom pate in Evergreen Vietnamese that's just like, it's practically like liver pate. And I remember like serving my dad this pate. And he's like the type of person, one time we went to a Chinese vegetarian restaurant, and he was very pleasant while we were there. My sister like wanted to eat there. And then afterwards in the car, he says to my mom and me, "That was not real food." And I was like, you know, and he's not even willing to eat brown rice, right?
Yeah,
I mean, he otherwise like he's a gourmet. He loves to eat, but he was like that was fake food. But so anyway, so one day, when I was working on Evergreen Vietnamese, I brought the pate to my dad, the mushroom one, and I served it to the whole family. Didn't tell him. And he goes, "This is really good." And I was like, "Guess what? There's no liver in it." And he was like, "Wow." You know, and then he didn't say anything else, but he ate a lot of it because he knew like for his heart condition, for example, like he can't eat that much liver pate, but the mushroom one he gobbled down.
That's a win.
That pate is really great. And it can also be put into a wonton and air fried or deep fried, so that it's like, and dipped in like a little sweet chili sauce, and it's quite delicious.
Gosh, it sounds like it'd be awesome in banh mi as well.
Yes. Oh, totally. Totally. It's like a banh mi thing. Yeah. I put it in banh mi, but like for a party, I would put it in deep fried wonton or a oven fried wonton or air fried wonton.
Fried.
Yeah. And serve it with like beer, bubbly, and then a bunch of sweets at the end, fresh fruit or cake or sorbet if it's summer. Right now, I'm eyeing all the corn to make this stuff called corn milk, which is a Vietnamese beverage that is, I just make it with coconut milk and corn. Then I cook with the cobs and even like the silk, because corn silk and the husk have flavor. We always throw them away, but they have like a really beautiful, bright, corny flavor.
What do you?
I know. Yeah.
What do you do with the silk? I'm intrigued.
So I take the silk and I take a number of the husks and I wrap the silk in the husk as a little bundle, and then I like drop it into the pot and I like cut the corn kernels off the cob, and then I throw the cobs in the pot too, and then I cook it for a while, and then I blend it all up. There's a little coconut milk in there, and and it's like so about in Vietnamese, and it's so damn good. No sugar needed.
I gotta try this.
Our summertime corn is so delicious. It's like my drink of choice in the summer, and you can even like practically eat it as a soup. It was so delicious. And one of my recipe testers added rum to make a cocktail with it.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, this is all like, vegetable stuff that we don't even think about. I mean, you have the gateway drugs to Vietnamese cooking, right? Are gai cuong, rice paper rolls, banh mi sandwiches, and pho noodle soup. And there are like so many directions you can take those two dishes. But from there, I hope to like get people to explore all these other things that are a little bit easier to make. Banh mi is pretty easy. Gai cuong is pretty easy. Pho, can be a challenge. But I mean, to just like really like kind of like open up the Pandora's box of like all the potential of Vietnamese food so that people realize that they can make it themselves.
Yeah. And I would say that pho isn't any trickier than making chicken broth at home. Like it can be a time commitment if you're not doing the Instapot version, but otherwise it's not actually much work. Like
no, you're just boiling.
Yeah. Like you're simmering. It sits on the stove. Your house smells fantastic. And then you have this lovely meal.
Yeah, but don't you think that there are challenges, or people perceive challenges when they go and they ask their first generation parents how to make pho, and they're like, "Oh, you can't make it."
Yeah.
Because you realize I simmer it overnight. My mother was never that way, because she was working at home as a dressmaker, but we always had dinner on the table. She had pho on the weekends and other noodle soups too. And I once asked her I said, well, you never like cooked pho that way. She goes, of course not. It would take you that long if you were making enough for 20, 30 people and you had a large pot that you had to like bring to a boil. But if you're just making a smaller batch, that's totally unnecessary. And she was like, I don't know what those people are saying.
That's so interesting, because she's absolutely right. Like bringing 4 quarts of water up to a boil takes not very long. My mother's response to me trying to make pho at home was the exact opposite. It was, why would you make it? You can just go buy it. It's so good. Just go buy it. But I don't think everyone can buy good pho. Like it really depends on the community you live in. And if you can't buy it, you should know that it's actually pretty easy to make.
Exactly. And the other thing is that it's a hit and miss at a pho restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be good on one day. If you go on a day where cooks are a little tired or at the end of the shift and the broth is just not that right.
Yeah. It's been simmering for like 8 hours. It's kind of lost a little
it's
something.
Tired.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's tired. And so when you cook at home, you get to control everything. However that you like it. You like it sweet. You like it salty. You want, lots of vegetables in there. And so I think that's very empowering about a cuisine, that, to say to people, you can get that out. Yeah. But you can get it better and have it your way if you make it at home.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you have a whole book on it. We have baby number 5, the pho cookbook. We have book number 4, the banh mi handbook. So you can find a lot of recipes for pho in your cookbooks.
Yeah. And then like in the new book, I have 3 pho recipes because I was like, I'm going to slay the vegetarian pho. So I have like this really great quick vegetarian pho.
Pho. All right.
And then there's like what I call the deluxe vegan pho. And then there is a chicken and vegetable pho, because I noticed that people would get my pho cookbook and they were like, make the chicken pho, but they would put all these vegetables in the bowl. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I was like, wait up, hold up here.
What is this?
And what is this? And then I started seeing like some like Vietnamese restaurants like put vegetables in the pho too, like in chicken pho, but it wasn't like a vegetarian pho. So then I thought to myself, okay, how can I build like this chickeny umami, flavor with chicken and vegetables? And vegetables, if you formulate, you combine certain vegetables, it can really bolster the flavor of the chicken, and you have like this wonderful bowl of noodle soup without having to use a bunch of chicken. And you have a bunch of vegetables that you can serve in the bowl as well. And like animal protein prices have gone up a lot.
Yeah.
So, and also like I used to feel bad when I would ask people to use an entire chicken to make pho, and you're only serving like, I don't know, say 6 to 8 people, but it's like a lot of chicken.
It is. There's always leftover for like, the next day.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Then, but in the new recipe, you're not using as much chicken. And I find that to be much more, resourceful cooking, and it's crafty, and also for me as a recipe writer, like more responsible in a way.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, oh, you're going to have extra chicken.
Yeah, it's funny. There are some folks who appreciate that, this one soup is going to make leftovers that you can reformulate the next day. And so some folks are going to want that recipe. And then there are others who don't want the leftovers, and they just want to make the dish and then be able to move on to something else the next day. And it's nice that you can offer both.
Yeah, definitely. And, Lan, when we're writing recipes, we don't know exactly who we're writing for.
Yeah. Right.
And what they'll do to the recipe in their hands. And all I can hope is that, they have enough success to make the recipe again.
Well, you do such a good job of providing just enough guidance. It's never didactic. It's never too much. But you feel well armed to go shopping, to start cooking, to like try new ingredients that maybe take a little bit of looking for. It's great.
Yeah. No, I mean, I really respect people who take the time to cook, right? And nowadays it seems so easy to go buy things. But I mean, I look at the packaging that is on a lot of products, and I think, my goodness, if you just made that food at home, it'll taste better. You won't have to deal with packaging. And I know that I sound like some kind of tree hugger type. Okay?
No, it's just responsible. Yeah.
It's just like responsible. And also like you can have it anytime you want. Yeah. But I know that part of the thing for people cooking a cuisine that they're unfamiliar with is finding ingredients. Yeah. And even down to, I like when I first started writing, for example, I used to call green onions scallions because my publisher like gave me a style sheet and they said, we call green onions scallions because it sounds upscale. And then I use scallions, and it's great because it's shorter. There's fewer characters. So like one day, I can't remember how many books in I was scallioning through, let's see, into Vietnamese Kitchen, yes. Asian dumplings, yes. Asian tofu, yes. I think I got to the banh mi handbook, and my mom said to me, "What are scallions?"
What's a scallion? They don't sell them in Safeway. Where can I get some scallions?
She goes, I said, it's a green onion. And she goes, they are not called that at the grocery store.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then I was like, okay, we're green onioning it here on it. Because, we need to, even at that level where it's like so, we're just trying to get people to choose the ingredients that we would choose and to have that level of familiarity and comfort.
Yeah.
In like finding a medium onion.
It's Curtis, you would not believe how much time we spend over things like, do I need to tell people it's a medium onion? If I say an onion, what size onion are they going to use? And is that going to mess things up? No, I think it'll be fine. Are they going to get mad that I didn't say anything? It's going to be fine. It's never ending.
But what if the onions that day in the bin are like the size of a softball and they would be medium to that cook?
Yeah. And it doesn't taste right. They're like, why doesn't it taste right?
My gosh.
Right. I slice all that, half of a medium onion to like garnish my, pho.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's French onion soup now.
Onion. I mean, it's just like this mountain of onion.
Oh, man.
I mean, there's like, it keeps you up at night.
It certainly does. I feel like we veered into your other podcast by accident.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. You do a podcast for aspiring cookbook authors.
Yes. Yeah. But you know what? On the other hand, like at the front of like Vietnamese Food Any Day, which is all about grocery, using grocery store ingredients for making Vietnamese food and evergreen Vietnamese, I have, I always discuss ingredients, and that's what Lan was talking about in my books. And I've like started recommending brands that I like, just because like it's not all of us are fluent in Chinese, Vietnamese, and Thai, for example, when we go to the store. And I've also like given people pointers on what is like a medium onion and a large onion, or a medium green onion, so that people have a sense of size. Because the other thing that we don't want to do is provide too many weights for ingredients, because that really scares people off. And at a certain point, it doesn't matter, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Sometimes it matters, baking. Sometimes it doesn't. And
right.
Yeah.
So everybody out there, is your mouth watering yet? I hope so. I hope that you are inspired to grab one of Andrea's books or a copy of Cooks Illustrated and do some Lan's recipes as well. You guys know where you can get Andrea's books, but we recommend your local independent bookstore. Do you guys have a favorite local bookstore that you like to shop at?
I shop at a lot of, I live in Santa Cruz, so it's Bookshop Santa Cruz. I also shop at cookbook bookstores. So they're all, in different parts of the country. Like there's Omnivore Books in San Francisco, Book Larder in Seattle, Kitchen Arts and Letters in New York City, Bold Fork Books in DC, now serving in LA. I mean, they're all over the place. And
Lan, you got one?
Just two. For those who are in the Boston area, Porter Square Books is fantastic. They do a great job of finding whatever you're looking for if they don't stock it. But they also have a really nice selection of books and cookbooks. And then Wild Child is fairly new to me, but they're over at the Bow Market, and just a really fun, very carefully curated collection of cookbooks. Plus, they serve wine occasionally, and that's fun too.
Hey. All right. Yeah. All right. I'll give a shout out to Bookshop at West Portal. It's the one I go to the most. But of course, Books Passage over in Marin County is amazing as well. But yeah, you know where you can get cookbooks. So you can get any one of Andrea's 7 cookbooks at any of those shops. But we recommend getting Evergreen Vietnamese, her latest. And you'll learn lots of hacks. I gotta look up how you make vegan pho. That's something cool. You engineered that
People
one.
People have fought me on this thing. They're like, what? They were like, what the pho? I mean, like, pho is like beef. And I'm like, no, we have plenty of vegetarians and people who are into, seeing if they are part-time vegetarians or full-time vegetarians in Vietnam, given the Buddhist traditions there.
Yeah.
And there's like seafood pho. I mean, there's all kinds of, there are pho salads, there are pho sandwiches. I mean, like the world of pho is never ending.
It's not limited to number one, you know?
No, right. Number one, the duck bit. But you can make your own vegetarian duck bit.
Okay, yeah. All right, everyone. Hey, Andrea, you have time for a little lightning round?
Sure.
All right. And Lan, you can throw in a question too if you like here. All right. Andrea, what was your favorite cooking show, or it could be current cooking show that you've ever watched?
I love to watch Julia Child and Martin Yan. I'm going to do two.
Yeah, nothing wrong with those two. Yeah. Favorite cuisine, not Vietnamese?
Mexican.
Really? Yeah. In California, we got some great Mexican food. Yeah. Hey, question for you. I saw someone's article. It wasn't an article. It was a comment on cilantro. Is cilantro Asian or is it New World?
Oh, that's a good question, Curtis.
That's a good question. We know that culantro is New World, but cilantro or coriander.
Yeah.
I somehow feel
it's been around
like,
for thousands of years.
Yeah. But Lan, how come we don't know this, girlfriend?
My guess is Old World. I mean, this is just based on the fact that coriander is used across so much European and
the Middle East.
You're right.
Yeah, like Muslim cultures use it a lot, and it got my guess is the Old World, but I don't know.
Yeah, and coriander is related to carrots.
It is, yeah.
I believe.
Same carrots, family. Cumin, mint.
Yeah. And carrots came from sort of like Eurasia, I think. My God, Curtis.
I'm going to be Googling this as soon as we wrap.
I know.
Oh, man. You know what?
I'm
going with your answer, though. I'm going to go Old World because you're the experts here. And then if anyone wants to fight us over it, they know how to email us. They can email.
Yeah.
Wait, can I ask one?
Yeah, go for it.
Andrea, what was the last cookbook you cooked from?
The Vegan Chinese Cookbook.
Oh, cool.
Oh.
By Hannah Che. Yeah.
Okay.
It's got some very interesting ideas in there.
Yeah, she just won a beard for that book.
Exactly. Yeah. She and I are kind of like tofu sisters.
Yes, Curtis, you got to get her on.
Hey, you got the connection. Send her my way.
All right.
I'll throw a producer tag on that one for you, Lan. I'll give you executive producer rights on that one. All right. Now, Lan likes this one. You can think of one too, Lan. This is the pick one category. You get to pick one of these, Andrea.
Okay.
Noodles or rice?
Rice.
Fish sauce or hot sauce?
Fish sauce.
Surf or turf? Or field?
Surf.
Okay. All right. Lan, you got one?
Sorbet or ice cream?
Sorbet. I can explain to you why, because I'm mildly lactose intolerant.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
And then we like to end each episode by asking our guests who their infatuasian is. An infatuasian is anyone in the Asian community that you admire. Could be living or deceased, someone you know, or someone you admire from afar. So, Andrea Nguyen, who is your infatuasian?
Currently,
okay,
I'm infatuated with Ocean Vuong. He's the poet and novelist, a memoirist. It's very interesting, the work that he does.
Yeah.
Very moving. But and I try to read a lot of books that are not cookbooks because it's a break, but it also like takes me to a creative space. I have this Substack newsletter called Pass the Fish Sauce, and I'm always trying. It's where I get to practice writing more and expressing myself in different ways. And as I mentioned earlier, writing was never a thing for me, so I work at it. And one of the ways you get to work at it is by reading good stuff.
Read good stuff. Yeah. He's another one. If he wants to come on the podcast, we'll have Ocean on here. Yeah, another amazing author. Yeah. If anyone out there would like to know more about our guest Andrea, they can find her. We just talked about it on her website. It's called vietworldkitchen.com, and you can go to the events page and kind of see where she might be coming closer to you. She's still on a little bit of a world tour, going to Southern California soon, and you've been to the East Coast, but we'll see what's next. So follow her there. Or if you want to be on her email list and read some of her writing, you can go to andreanguyen.substack.com. I'll list all of this in the show notes, and then you'll get email updates from Andrea. Yeah?
Yes.
Amazing.
Oh, it's a great newsletter. I look forward to getting all of your notes. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you, Lan. That's very, now I have to really do an extra good job.
No.
There are a number of writers, colleagues of mine.
You're doing great.
Thank you.
They're following you because they want to and they know your content. Yeah. And for Lan, where are you at? You're at Lan_Cooks at Instagram, and you can follow Andrea Nguyen 88 on Instagram. And again, I'll put all this in the show notes. I know you're not writing this down, folks out there, so we'll put it down for you so you don't have to copy it. And you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, and you can write to us with your angry cilantro facts that you found online. You can write to us at infatuasianpodcast@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Infatuasian Podcast, and you know where to get all these details. So, hey, Andrea, thank you so much for coming in today.
Oh, you're very welcome, Curtis. This is great time to just let loose.
Yeah.
With Lan and you.
Yeah, no, we're all friends here. No one else is listening. It's just us.
That's right. Cone of silence.
And Lan, thank you so much for hustling over from the shoot location. Can you give us any tips, any red herrings on what we're going to be seeing on Techniquely, or what recipes coming up?
Sure. We were shooting an episode, or what were we shooting? We were shooting a video on fire and how fire can change flavors either inside or outside. And so we were shooting the outside bit today, but look for it in a couple months. We're a little ways out.
All right. You guys know where to find Lan. She's on YouTube at Techniquely, or you can watch America's Test Kitchen, or you can go to cooksillustrated.com and find more of her writing there. But thank you both so much for coming on, and have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Curtis. Thanks, Andrea.
You.
And
thank you both.
Everyone out there listening, thank you for tuning in. And until we talk to you again, on behalf of Andrea, Lan, and myself, we hope that you're all happy, healthy, and safe out there. Until we talk to you again, bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. All right. That was fun.
That's a wrap.